Monday morning, welcome. Well, that's coming up today, this Monday, the 2nd day of August. Sadly, these days you open up the paper, there's another story about violent crime. This morning, a notorious American gang known for its aggression and use of clown makeup, there they are, apparently operating in Sydney and looking to recruit new members around the country. I tell you, last week, on Friday, an enormous reaction when we spoke to entertainer Rhonda Burchmore. She revealed she was recently carjacked in Melbourne. Have a look at this.
Sitting at the traffic lights thinking, oh, I'll put the radio on to amuse myself, and within seconds, Kerri-Anne, a man jumped in the passenger seat of my car, grabbed my breast and my shoulder. He was drugged. The most upsetting thing, I would think it was, that there were a car on either side and I'm screaming at the top of my voice for help and honking the horn, seeing these faces, it was like in slow motion, of these other people, and not one person came to...
Not a single one. Well, there you go, not a single person came to her aid. So I guess it begs the question, what would you do if you witnessed a violent crime? Do you get involved? Do you risk your own safety or just keep on going? For their thoughts this morning, I'm joined by the Daily Telegraph's police reporter, Clementine Cuneo, and also the man who made headlines because he went to the aid of a woman in distress, a good Samaritan, Joe Tomarchio. Good morning, one and all.
Good morning.
Clementine, from your experience as a police reporter, the public ignoring the pleas of someone who's in trouble, is this common?
It is common, but for a range of reasons. I don't think it's necessarily common because people are hardened. I think they're just more aware of risks now, of getting involved in situations and a high-risk situation. But that situation with Rhonda, to think that there were people around in the traffic, in a busy area, and that no one came. They heard her screaming, beeping the horn, kept on going on. I mean,
but it happens on a regular basis. As a police reporter, you know it, you see it day in, day out.
We do, yeah, sadly we do.
It is a tough one, Joe. Let's remind everyone of your Good Samaritan work. What happened?
In this incident, I was on my way to work and Mrs. Robinson, a 70-year-old lovely lady, had collapsed. And
this is in the middle of the street?
Middle of the street, middle of Market and Castlereagh Street in Sydney. So I was crossing the road. I actually didn't see her fall, and people coming towards me were looking over my shoulder. I, at that moment, turned around and saw Mrs. Robinson on the floor, a few bystanders, again, a lot of people walking, and ran directly to her aid. Down to her, held her hand, and first of all just told her, Mrs. Robinson, you're going to be okay. I then asked her where she worked, tried to keep her talking and keep her really comfortable, and then called for help with the local construction workers to get first aid out there to help immediately, because I knew the ambulance would take some time to come out. But for me, mainly just to show some compassion and comfort.
Because a lot of people had been walking past a little shocked, and I guess these things happen in a bit of a hurry. But of course, when you look at the other side of it, Clementine, you never know these days if there's something of violence going on. Somebody's got a knife or a gun. Just as I mentioned before, in the newspaper today, these clowns, literally with clown makeup, are recruiting new members in this country. So tell me the legalities of something like that and how often you might see that.
Look, I think the situation in Melbourne, I think it's known as the Flinders Lane shooting, the Flinders Street shooting, where a lawyer was walking to work, saw a woman being dragged out of the car by the hair, and a situation like that is no different to the one with Rhonda. You probably think that you could go over quite safely and render assistance, and that poor lawyer was shot dead. So we are made aware of those situations. They are becoming more violent. People do seem to be resorting to the most extraordinary things, like, you know, with knives and guns, and I think that's why people don't get involved. They keep walking. You just never know what might be there, what might be sort of lurking, and I think
it's
your
a
own safety
call.
is...
Well, what sort of response did you get? I mean, you're the Good Samaritan as opposed to going toward a violent incident. What sort of response did you get?
Up until today, I still get stopped on the street, and people will always share a story where they've done something similar, which is great to hear. But I can honestly say for every story where someone says they've stopped and helped, 4 or 5 will easily say there is no way I would have stopped.
And what do they say? Why do they say that?
They just feel that they wouldn't know what to do. They don't want to get involved. They may have, have to get to work, or in most cases, they're worried that they could actually injure the person there
and therefore be liable.
And be liable.
Is that a big issue, being liable if you assist?
In my situation, again, I didn't even think of the liabilities attached to Mrs. Robinson being on the ground. I just went to her aid. None of that came into my mind. The only time it did was a gentleman came up and said, I think we should move her from the road. I just knew through, experience, I didn't know what kind of injuries Molly had, so let's just leave her here, comfort her, lay with her and try and keep her comfortable.
I've got to say, I prefer to think our society errs on the side of kindness and generosity, but liability and violence is a whole different ballgame these days. But Clementine and Joe, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Kerri-Anne, thank you.
And I don't know, out there, what do you think? What would you do? Would you keep walking? Would you want to get involved? And what worries you about getting involved? Email us, kerri-anne@9.com.au. Got to tell you now, our brand new